You know, I was talking to Will Chamberlain a long time ago about it, and he said, I think he said it on the show. The issue is that if they step into this lawsuit, it will expose them as having no enforcement power. And so the Supreme Court really has to do light things. When they issue rulings, it has to be done in such a way that it can reasonably be accomplished. But if they try and do something more drastic, like send back 5 or 6 states' electoral vote counts to be re-litigated, thus changing the results of the election, then there's questions as to whether or not they can enforce any of these things when people resist their rulings.
Yeah, if they ruled on this Trump case and they were like, no, this is not constitutional. He had a right to question the elections. All the things he did was constitutionally legal. And then the Biden administration continues to go forward with it after Supreme Court declaration. That would be just like tearing the threads of society apart.
And that's what the Supreme Court's worried about, that if they do issue a ruling and the Democrats don't care and keep doing whatever they want, look at it this way. If the Supreme Court intervenes and says these charges against Trump are unconstitutional, they violate the supremacy clause, blah, 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 and then the Democrats say, so what? The Supreme Court no longer exists at that point. And they probably want that.
It's like 9 people, nine people in the Supreme Court right now. Mm-hmm. 9 people. They have bodyguards. Do they have bodyguards?
Yeah, they have their own.
So it's like 9 people with some protection against the entire federal government, the FTA, the CIA, the NSA, the FBI, and then against 9 dudes sitting. And of course, some of them are women, but 9 people sitting on the Supreme Court. Like, they don't have power. It's 9 old people or like 9 judges.
I mean, but that's true of our whole system, right? Like, you have as much power as you can. They have as much power as we consent to give them. And that was the idea of having these branches that balance each other out.
That's technically correct. They have as much power as police are willing to enforce against. So if the Supreme Court says something like, you can no longer bar people from having guns, there's an interesting question. In New York, they ruled that precedent was set that women are allowed to be topless because it is a violation of the Civil Rights Act and constitutional rights for men to be allowed not to wear a shirt, but women being forced to wear a shirt. You still have cops arrest women regularly for going topless because those cops don't care what is legal. They care about their morals. And so there's apparently some like morbidly obese old woman who's in her 50s who intentionally goes around with just like massive old saggy boobs. And the police will be like, ma'am, you need to put a shirt on. And she'll go, no, I don't. And they'll say, then we're going to arrest you. And she goes, do it. She immediately files a lawsuit and they instantly settle every single time because it is illegal. So why is it that these cops are willing to enforce something that's not a law or that's not legally enforceable, but they'll do it anyway? So the issue then becomes the Supreme Court comes in and says, you have to release Trump. And they go, no. Supreme Court's going to bang the gavel again. Well, we order you to release Trump. No, thank you.
And then what's supposed to happen? Like a rogue executive branch is like, no, we're not gonna. Then is that when the FBI turns on the executive branch?
No,
like
there are the executive branch.
Who guards the Supreme Court? What's the military structure that protects the Supreme Court from a crazy executive
Marshals,
branch?
I guess.
Mm-hmm.
U.S. Marshals.
But I'm not sure that they're dedicated explicitly to just the Supreme Court. I'm not sure.
There's a Supreme Court. I think they're the Supreme Court police. I might be getting their title wrong because I remember when after Roe v. Wade came out, one of the big challenges was the fact that people, their homes, a lot of their homes had been doxxed. And so they were needing to sort of redouble the support that their security had. And I remember Congress specifically passing something to make sure that the protection was extended to their families because it had become so critical because these rioters just stayed outside their house. I mean, I guess they're not rioters, they're just protesters. But
yeah, the marshals are the enforcement arm of the U.S. federal courts.
That's cool. That's Vivek wants to move a lot of the FBI over to the U.S. Marshals. It sounds almost innocuous, but that's a big difference, serving the executive branch or serving the judicial branch. I didn't used to think it was a big difference. I thought it was all serving the American government, and I would like it to maintain that and continue to be that.
I agree. And I think that makes sense as far as what Will Chamberlain was saying. That's why it has to be light things. It can't be something grand because who's going to enforce it?